Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the show that cuts through the noise, grabs the key insights from complex sources, and basically shortcuts you to being really well informed.
That's the goal.
And today, we're doing a philosophical deep dive, actually, into something we think we know inside out, the idea of teaching.
Seems simple.
Exactly, but it holds some surprising, really beautiful depths, I think.
Definitely.
Our mission today is based on this fascinating collection of essays from 1968 called Concepts of Teaching. Now, I know what you might be thinking, 1968, isn't that a bit, old school for something like education?
Understandable reaction.
But honestly, the insights, they're not just relevant, they're incredibly foundational. For understanding education, sure, but also our own learning, how we learn, and even how we navigate all the information thrown at us today.
It provides a kind of timeless framework, really.
Yeah. We take teaching for granted. Picture a classroom, right?
Yeah.
Teacher, students, maybe some facts being passed along.
The standard image.
But what if that everyday picture is just too simple? What if it's actually hiding some really crucial distinctions? Things that could change how you think about learning, information, maybe even truth itself.
It's worth questioning those assumptions.
So get ready. We're going to challenge some core ideas and hopefully uncover some complexities you haven't considered.
Let's do it.
Okay, so why is it so hard to define teaching? It feels intuitive, like I know it when I see it.
We all feel that way.
But philosophers, apparently going way back to Plato, have wrestled with what it actually means.
And the sources point out something interesting. Educational research often looks at what teachers do, the observable stuff.
Right, the actions.
But that's different from knowing what makes something teaching to begin with. It's like describing how a car moves without defining what a car is.
Gotcha. So it's about the concept itself.
Exactly. The main goal of this book is what they call conceptual analysis.
Okay.
It's not about listing behaviors or saying how teaching should happen. It's about clarifying the meaning of the word teaching.
Why is that so important?
Well, it helps avoid what the sources call the bloated concept. That's where you mix up the definition with related stuff, like assuming readiness is part of defining learning itself.
Can you give an example?
Think about defining happiness. You wouldn't say, happiness is going on vacation.
No, that's just one way to maybe get there.
Exactly. Vacation is a way to experience it, maybe, but not the definition. Conceptual analysis tries to avoid that kind of confusion with teaching.
And the book has examples of definitions that kind of miss the mark, what our sources call question begging.
Yeah, they do.
Like, teaching is arrangement and manipulation of a situation in which there are gaps or obstructions which an individual will seek to overcome.
Sounds quite technical.
Or intimate contact between a more mature personality and a less mature one, which is designed to further the education of the latter.
Bit different.
They sound potentially helpful, but you see how they already sort of dictate how teaching should happen, like problem solving or mentoring.
Right. They build a method into the definition. They're telling you how to do it instead of just defining what it is.
And that's the issue.
That's the core problem, yeah. Those definitions prejudge the questions research should be asking. They aren't neutral. They embed a theory right into the definition.
So the goal here is different.
The goal of conceptual analysis, according to these essays, is to report our common understanding of teaching, not to, reform it or push a specific method. We need to agree on what we're talking about first.
Which leads to this really interesting paradox the sources mention. We are masters of denotation even while we are inept at articulating connotation.
Say more about that.
It means we can usually point and say, yep, that's teaching, but we struggle to explain why it counts as teaching.
Ah, okay. Like knowing a cat when you see one, but finding it hard to define catness.
Exactly. What fundamentally makes it teaching? We're not so good at explaining that.
And this philosophical digging, it seems abstract, but it's actually super relevant now. Well, think about new tech in education films, machines back then, AI tutors now maybe, or new policies like more self-directed learning.
Right, things are always changing.
These changes force us to recalibrate our pedagogical concepts, as the source puts it. We have to ask, is this new thing still teaching? Does the old definition fit?
So this deep dive is timely. It helps us make sense of those changes.
Precisely. Avoids just sticking old labels on new things without really thinking it through.
Okay, let's tackle a big one. A belief that's almost like gospel in education circles.
Which one's that?
Unless the child learns, the teacher is not taught.
Ah, yes, the classic link.
It gets compared to selling and buying. If nobody buys, did you really sell anything? Seems logical, right?
Yeah,
Fair, even.
feels intuitive. You haven't done the job if the outcome isn't there.
Oh,
But what's fascinating is the sources argue this analogy will not bear inspection. It just doesn't hold up.
why not?
They bring in philosopher Gilbert Ryle's distinction between task words and achievement words.
Okay, task words and achievement words.
Yeah. Task words describe ongoing activities, things you can do skillfully or badly or effectively, like running a race, treating a patient, or teaching.
You can definitely run a race badly or treat someone unsuccessful.
Exactly. But then you have achievement words. These signify a successful outcome, like winning the race, curing the patient, arriving somewhere, or learning.
Ah, I see. You can't win unsuccessfully. That doesn't make sense.
Right. So it makes perfect sense to say, I taught the class, but I did it unsuccessfully. Maybe no one got it,
Okay.
but it's a contradiction to say, I learned French unsuccessfully. If you didn't succeed, you didn't learn it.
So that distinction fundamentally separates the act of teaching from the achievement of learning.
Conceptually, yes. They aren't tied together in that cause and effect way the analogy suggests.
But practically, if I keep teaching unsuccessfully, like my French class example, isn't there a point where people say, I'm not really teaching anymore? Is it a line?
That's a really good question. It gets at the heart of the confusion. Conceptually, they're distinct. The act of teaching is defined by its manner and its intent, not just the student's result.
Manner and intent.
Yeah, and the sources clarify this. They say there are restrictions of manner and motive on teaching which do not apply to other things that might also get somewhere to learn.
Like what?
Well, things like propagandizing, conditioning, hypnosis, even lobotomy, theoretically, all could make someone learn or change behavior.
Right, but we wouldn't call those teaching.
Exactly. They lack the specific intent and sort of intellectual honesty that's part of teaching.
Okay, that's a really sharp point and might surprise a lot of educators. Teaching has this inherent manner that separates it.
It's about how you try to get someone to learn, not just if they learn in the end.
So if teaching isn't just about making learning happen, what exactly is it?
Well, let's dig into what the sources call the molecular concept of teaching.
Molecular, like chemistry.
Sort of. The idea is it's not one single sharply defined thing. It's more like a whole family of activities with boundaries that are kind of vague and imperceptible.
Okay.
Think of the color spectrum. There isn't a single sharp line where blue becomes green, right? They fade into each other.
Yeah, it's gradual.
But blue and green are still useful, distinct concepts. Teaching is like that, a spectrum of related actions.
That helps. Okay, so if it's a spectrum, let's map out this terrain. What are some key activities on or near this teaching spectrum?
First, there's training.
Training, like training a dog or an athlete.
Could be either. It's mainly about forming modes of habit and behavior. But the sources note something interesting. As training is aimed less and less at the display of intelligence, it sort of fades off imperceptibly into what we would commonly call conditioning.
Ah, okay. So training a surgeon requires intelligence, but training someone a purely repetitive task might edge towards conditioning, like teaching a dog to fetch versus just pure rote memorization.
Exactly. Then moving along, you have instructing.
Instructing. Sounds more academic.
It is. It necessarily involves a kind of conversation, giving reasons, evidence, discussing objections. It's a quest for understanding.
So you can't really instruct without trying to get the other person to understand why.
The sources say it's logically impossible to instruct someone without at the same time attempting to bring him to some understanding. It's about engaging their mind.
Okay, what's next?
Then there's indoctrinating.
Ooh, that sounds negative.
It often is. It's related to instruction, but distinct. Indoctrination aims to establish certain beliefs so that they will be held quite apart from their truth, their explanation, or their foundation in evidence.
So it's about getting someone to believe something, whether it's true or well-supported or not.
Right. It might involve talking, but not the kind of open, evidence-based conversation central to instruction. It's designed to install belief, regardless of evidence.
And at the far end,
At the far end, you have conditioning.
like Pavlov's dogs.
The classic example. It just aims to set up responses or behaviors quite apart from their desirability, with no goal of intelligent performance, just stimulus response.
So training, instructing, indoctrinating, conditioning, that's the spectrum. Where does teaching most clearly fit?
Well, the sources identify what they call the region of intelligence. This includes training when it aims at intelligence, like the surgeon example, and instructing.
Okay.
This region represents the most central properties of the concept of teaching, because teaching is mainly concerned with the relation between thought and action.
Got it. So that's the core. Well, it's definitely not teaching, even broadly speaking.
The sources put things like intimidation, physical threat, exhorting, like just passionately urging someone, propagandizing, and just plain lying as either less central or completely excluded.
So there's a kind of moral dimension creeping in there too.
Seems like it. And importantly, they stress there's an inherent area of uncertainty or vagueness, especially between training and conditioning and between instructing and indoctrinating.
We shouldn't try to draw super sharp lines.
Exactly. That vagueness should be respected and preserved, not artificially eliminated. It reflects the complexity of human interaction.
This is really shifting my view.
Ah,
Separating teaching from just causing learning. It makes you think about belief itself differently.
it really does.
Because it's not just what we believe, right?
Yeah.
The sources say it's how we believe it that's crucial for teaching.
Absolutely. They talk about belief systems and make a key distinction between the content of our beliefs, what we believe, and their style.
Style of belief.
Yeah, how we hold them. They mention some beliefs are like bedrock, unquestioned arbiters. For others, they call these primitive beliefs. Others are derived from those.
Yeah.
And there's also psychological centrality. Some beliefs are just held more deeply. They're less open to change. They're protected by these impregnable shields. Think about topics you just don't discuss with certain people because it'll cause a fight.
Right, like politics or religion at the family dinner table sometimes. Those are shielded beliefs.
Okay. Exactly. They're psychologically central and often protected from challenge.
So how does this connect back to teaching?
It leads to this critical distinction: non-evidential beliefs versus evidential beliefs.
Okay, break those down.
Non-evidential beliefs are held without regard to evidence or contrary to evidence, or just apart from good reasons. Crucially, they cannot be modified by introducing evidence or reasons or by rational criticism. They're essentially fixed, walled off.
And evidential belief.
Those are held on the basis of evidence or reasons. And because of that, they can be modified by new evidence or better reasons. They're open to revision.
The sources have an illustration for this, right? The Columbus one.
Yes, it's a great example. Imagine two students, Adams and Barnes.
Okay.
Adams comes to believe Columbus discovered America through a process involving evidence, explanations, arguments, and examination of authorities.
Yeah.
He gets the why. That's instruction leading to an evidential belief.
Makes sense. And Barnes.
Burns is simply trained to respond with the name Columbus through repetition, reward, maybe punishment. He can give the right answer.
But
But the sources say he could not say he had been taught that Columbus discovered America. He doesn't know it evidentially. He's just been conditioned to give the correct response.
wow. That's a huge difference just based on how they arrived at the same fact.
It is. And this gets at the aim of indoctrination. Its intent is to make people hold beliefs as though they were arrived at by inquiry, but crucially hold them independently of any subsequent inquiry.
So it mimics the look of reasoned belief, but it's designed to be secure against future evidence or questioning.
Exactly. Secure against the threat of change. It wants the appearance without the substance of open inquiry.
That feels manipulative. And the forces point out something logically strange here, too.
Yes, this is fascinating. They say it is both grammatically and logically impossible for a person to say of himself truthfully and in the present tense that he is indoctrinated.
Why is that impossible?
Because the very act of recognizing your belief is held without evidence or against it means it's no longer held as a consequence of indoctrination only. The moment you question its basis, you're already moving towards an evidential style.
So indoctrination only works if the person doesn't know they're indoctrinated. They have to believe they arrived at their beliefs through reason.
Precisely. It relies on that illusion, the illusion that you're seriously inquiring, when maybe you're just using reason defensively to shut down real inquiry.
And teaching, true teaching, is the opposite of that.
Yes, the sources connect it back. Insofar as teaching is directed at matters of knowledge and belief, it involves instruction and may be described as the effort to free us from this illusion to whatever extent it is possible.
Free us from the illusion of false certainty.
And it gets deeper. They discuss religious education, suggesting some well-meaning Christian education can accidentally foster a non-evidential style of belief. By multiplying core beliefs and isolating them in these well-protected clusters that neither facts nor reasons may penetrate. This, they argue, paradoxically leads to men of little faith, not meaning doubt, but lacking the courage to really engage intellectually with their beliefs.
Wow. So true faith, in this view, requires intellectual openness.
That seems to be the implication. Teaching, by contrast, begins with posing questions to be answered or answers to be questioned. It aims to remove these fetters, these protective shields.
It fosters psychic freedom. I like
Yeah.
that phrase.
And a posture of the pilgrim, that capacity to tolerate uncertainty, to be free to wander in the world intellectually.
A pilgrim, not someone locked in a fortress of belief. That's really beautiful. Aspirational, like you said earlier.
It is. It sets a very high bar for what education can be.
So this focus on the how of belief, the style, really clarifies the core of teaching. And it seems like the word teaching itself, it operates on different levels, doesn't it, depending on the context?
That's a great way to put it. The sources identify 3 distinct levels of how we talk about teaching or teaching discourse.
Okay, what are they?
First, there's the occupational level.
Like teaching is my job.
Exactly. Defined by institutional stuff, being employed by a school, authorized to assign homework, that sort of thing. Your job title is teacher.
Got it. Level 1.
Second, the enterprise level. This is broader. It refers to teaching as a general activity or a sequence, like he is teaching this hour, meaning teaching a course or over a semester.
Okay, the ongoing activity.
Right. And here, while there's a general presumption that learning happens, the sources reiterate that teaching at this level does not strictly imply learning. But if learning is chronically absent semester after semester, then an accounting is due. People will start asking questions.
Right, you can't just keep doing it if it never works. What's the third level?
Finally, and maybe most interestingly, the act level. This is the most specific. It refers to a particular momentary action in the classroom.
Like what?
Like, he is reporting the treaty conditions right now, or explaining a specific formula. The sources say this is where teaching finds its most exclusive and distinctive sense. The specific moments.
So let's focus on those specific moments, those intellectual acts like explaining, proving, demonstrating, questioning. What's the real goal there? Is it just to cause learning?
According to the sources, no. For these intellectual acts, the teacher's intention isn't simply to produce learning as an outcome. It's for the student to get the point, grasp the idea, come to the solution, or become aware of connections. It's about that moment of understanding.
Uh-huh. And the key criterion is?
Logical lucidity. The act itself, the explanation, the proof is the grounds or reasons for understanding. The performance reveals the basis.
How is that different from just, say, influencing someone?
Well, with cousined activities like influencing or even deceiving, the reason the student becomes aware might be external, maybe praise, or the teacher's authority, or some kind of manipulation, not the inherent logic of the act itself.
I see. In true intellectual teaching acts, the logic is transparent in the act.
Exactly. And they add another layer, the auditor sense of these acts, like explaining something to someone.
Meaning, it has to land with the listener.
Yes. In this sense, success in performing the act requires success in bringing about the appropriate kind of awareness in the student. If they don't get it, you haven't successfully explained to them.
So doing is succeeding in that specific context. Like telling a joke, if no one gets it, did you really tell it well?
That's a good analogy. The act isn't complete without the uptake.
So the core, the sharpest sense of teaching, is these specific intellectual acts aimed at getting the student to grasp something right then and there.
That's what the sources argue. The strictest, the basic, the keenest concept of teaching we have is the concept we apply to designate particular occurrences of intellectual acts directed to the auditor.
Okay, so if we're clear on what teaching is, these different levels, the focus on understanding, the separation from learning outcomes, can we just treat it like a process? Like engineering, a means to an end?
That brings us to the means-ends pattern of reasoning. An action, the means, done to get a result, the end, that's separately describable.
Like building a bridge means to cross a river end.
Right. And the sources, building on that Smith-Scheffler idea that teaching and learning don't strictly imply each other, say yes, teaching can be related to learning as means to ends. Conceptually, it fits.
But there's an ethical but coming, isn't there?
There is. The sources discuss R.S. Peters, who had serious objections to applying this means-ends model too rigidly in education.
Why? What was his worry?
His concern was it could reduce students to just material to be molded, that it ignores the intrinsic value of the educational process itself.
So how things are done matters, not just the final result.
Exactly. Peters argued that educational values are often implicit in the manner of teaching, the principles of procedure, not just in concrete aims. Like emphasizing mental health isn't about producing a measurable mental health output, but maybe a warning against treating students instrumentally.
Okay, but does using means-ends thinking automatically make teaching immoral?
The sources offer a nuanced take. Teaching may be immoral, but means-ends reasoning does not make it so.
So the reasoning pattern itself isn't the problem.
Not necessarily. The immorality comes in when you focus only on the end goal, ignoring other negative consequences, or, and this is crucial, when you start treating people as mere means to your end.
The Kantian idea. Treat people as ends in themselves.
Precisely. The sources really emphasize this. Intellectual teaching acts aim to spark mental acts in the student thinking, understanding, believing. These acts are valuable in themselves, regardless of further consequences.
So trying to use someone's understanding simply as a tool to get something else that crosses a line.
That's the argument. For one person to treat another's mental act purely as means to some further end is to violate the Kantian imperative that men are to be treated as ends, not merely as means. You have to value their thought, their understanding, for its own sake.
So if we interpret learning too narrowly, like just a behavior to be produced, then yeah, means-ends thinking can become exploitative.
Exactly. It's not the reasoning pattern itself, but its misuse, applying it to humans as if they're just objects or systems to be manipulated for an external goal. And building on that, this critique of just chasing efficiency. The sources bring in ideas about the technological order, citing thinkers like Spengler and Ellul.
The technological order.
Yeah, basically a system that prioritizes rational methods and absolute efficiency above all else. The risk is it reduces humans to just cogs in the machine, subservient to technique.
And how does that play out in education?
Well, they argue this equating of education with learning has pushed into ascendancy theories of learning. So educators mainly ask, okay, what are they supposed to learn? Like, it's a production target.
Which reinforces that means-ends value system.
Right, and it can make teachers feel like just extensions of the technique, just delivering the program efficiently.
So what's the impact of this technical focus? Where does it fall short?
The sources argue this intense focus on efficiency struggles with man's temporality, the fact that we're constantly changing, growing beings. We're not fixed end product.
We're always evolving.
Exactly. And the common answer, well, we'll teach them how to learn, is seen as inadequate because it still keeps us thinking within existing categories that maybe need to be upset for real growth.
So what's the alternative they propose?
They suggest shifting the focus. Instead of centering everything on learning activity, focus on educational activity more broadly.
Educational activity. How is that different?
It opens the door to other kinds of value, beyond just instrumental goals or measurable learning outcomes, like moral value.
Moral value in education.
Does the activity reflect man and his possibilities? Does it foster transcendence, going beyond the immediate, through things like language, human encounter, confronting different views, and experiencing wonder and awe at the world? These are seen as life-giving sources of man's spirit.
So education should nourish the spirit, not just train skills.
That's the idea. And also aesthetic value.
Aesthetics? Like, is the classroom pretty?
It's broader than that. Does the whole educational environment, the activities, exhibit beauty and truth, good design, harmony? Does it symbolize what the teacher really is and what man is or what man can be?
So avoiding the ugliness of dead routine.
Yes. Advocating for experiences with dramatic qualities that heighten life. Thinking about education partly as an art form.
This puts the teacher in a complex spot.
It does. They have an ambiguous role. Partly a conditioned being, following the system, the techniques, and partly a free agent, representing that human spirit, fostering critical thought.
That tension, that's where the real work happens.
That seems to be where the struggle for meaning is waged.
And the curriculum specialist, in this view, isn't just picking subjects.
No, they become a designer of an educative environment, a just environment that reflects diverse values, encourages social critique, and resists just serving one narrow, efficiency-driven goal.
It makes curriculum design sound profound.
They call it a great liberal and liberating study, preparing people for artistry and shaping human experience. It's a powerful vision.
Wow. Okay, what a journey. We started with what seemed like a simple question: what is teaching? And we've gone through complex definitions, untangling it from learning,
Mapping its molecular nature,
exploring the how of belief, the evidential versus non-evidential styles,
looking at the different levels occupational enterprise act.
and wrestling with the ethics of means-ends thinking in education. It's been a lot.
It really has. But the core message seems to be that teaching, at its best, is so much more than just transmitting information or hitting learning targets.
Right. It's about nurturing that evidential style of belief.
Fostering psychic freedom, honoring that Kantian idea that people are ends in themselves.
Valuing their understanding for its own sake.
Awakening the human spirit, you could say?
So a final thought for you listening. As you go about your own learning, your own engagement with the world, maybe ask yourself this. Are you just acquiring correct beliefs to tick a box? Maybe falling into that unexamined non-evidential style without realizing
And
it.
are you striving for that posture of the pilgrim? Constantly questioning, seeking reasons, even tolerating that bit of uncertainty, that beautiful alienation that comes with genuinely trying to understand things more deeply.
It's definitely a challenge, embracing the discomfort of real inquiry. But maybe it's also the most rewarding path to finding actual understanding, something to think about.